just to speak into that, I've done a lot of research in the lead up to this, probably intentionally, unintentionally. I've been looking into this for over a year
Okay.
now, because as you start to unravel surrogacy, it's a mess, to be really honest with you. And that's coming from someone that's not a lecturer, I'm not a bioethicist. I'm not going to say this in the most nice and pretty ways, but I want people to understand this. When you start to unravel it, there has been a lot of marriages that have ended because men have this, they've talked about it. There was an actual term for it, this jealousy of seeing their wife pregnant, knowing that it wasn't
It's a
them.
sexual
And it
jealousy,
does
yes.
something to the
It's a
relationship.
feeling that
Yes.
they've been betrayed sexually, even though no physical act has occurred.
Absolutely. And then there's been daughters of women, particularly in the States, where it is you get paid to become a surrogate. And there are women, particularly army wives. A lot of army wives will become surrogates because their husbands are away, and they go, well, my husband's away for the next 10, 12 months, so I'll have a baby in the meantime, earn us some extra cash. But the daughters are growing up, and the sons, but the daughters in particular are going, my body is a commodity, I can make money off it. Well, where do you draw the line then? Like, why is it okay for you to have a baby and be paid for it? Why can't I just have sex and get paid for it? There's this gray line, and it's a horrible moral and ethical dilemma to raise girls in seeing and normalizing. That is not normal. It is not okay. Your body is not a commodity. Children are not a commodity. You have value and purpose, and so does that baby. And then for men to see that and go, well, we're kind of not needed. They can kind of figure out ways to do it without us. And, look, this woman's single and she's having all these babies and selling her body off for it. Men aren't needed. So there's these messages there. And then, like you said, the one that really hit me, I remember hearing an argument for and against surrogacy. It was a debate. And one woman just said, if you have a puppy in Australia, you can't take the puppy away from its mother for the first 6 weeks. Yet in the States, in China, in India, where there is such a thing as surrogacy tourism, where, it is just such a big business is surrogacy. You have women giving birth, their babies are stripped away from them, and like sometimes within hours, immediately. We know now in attachment theory. So I've studied and done a course in counselling, qualified counsellor, and attachment theory is a really serious thing. What happens in those first 5 years, but particularly what happens even in that first year, is so important. The bonding that takes place. Not to say you can't be having a typical life, and there are definitely healthy people that have had struggles growing up, but we know the importance of mothers bonding with their children. And when you strip that from a child, not to mention the long-term health and trauma implications for women, because you've also got to consider that mum now is going to have milk coming in. So she's going to go for the next 6 to 8 months through the whole hormonal process of her body recovering from pregnancy. So every time she looks down and her tummy's all flabby and still, big and bloated, she's remembering she had a little baby that she was feeling kicking there only a few hours ago, a few days ago, a few months ago, and she doesn't have it. There is something so significant in the weight of that, like for the woman, but also for the child. And in some of these, and maybe we could talk a little bit about this, surrogacy, when it comes to famous people having surrogacy and paying for people to have their babies, like whatever, it's a walk in the park. And then even in this surrogacy tourism, these children can sometimes, particularly in the tourism aspect where people go overseas, they do get stuck in the limbo place of the passport. And in China, there are actual recorded by the hundreds of thousands cases of children that have been taken from their gestational mother and then put into the care of these like nannies for the next, 2 to 6, 8, however long, many weeks, sometimes months, until they can get a passport and be sent back to the country where the parents have paid for this child. So there is just, when you start looking into it, it is just this unraveling of just all these issues. And like you said, it impacts everyone involved.
And
everyone.
It can be very nasty. I did a lot of research on commercial surrogacy in the past, and obviously there's no screening of the parents. And I read about a terrible case where known child molesters had commissioned a child.
That gives me goosebumps.
And I won't tell
disgusting.
you the details, just to say the child died very young in terrible circumstances.
And this is the
This
reality.
is
This is
commercial
why we have
surrogacy.
to
It
talk
can
about
go very
this.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is why we have to keep on coming back to the fact, and we talked about this in our last episodes. Children are a gift from God. And when they're viewed that way, we value them and we protect them and we honor that gift and we love them. Because when they become a commodity, they lose value. When you can just easily purchase something, you tend to not value it, just as a general rule, right? So when you have the same approach and the same kind of, the same viewpoint of children, we lose value. And that's where people are like, I've purchased this, it's mine, and I can now do what I want to it.
Yes, I
And that is
think
not how
to
God
see
intended it.
pregnancy as a service instead of a relationship really demeans motherhood. And to reduce a woman
absolutely
to her
does.
reproductive functions is dehumanizing for the woman.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.